Josie Marcher stepped off the noon stage at Fair Springs on a Tuesday afternoon in May and asked the porter to point her to Mr. Amos Kettle, and the porter pointed at the plain sun-brown rancher standing at the freight rail with a canvas mail sack over his shoulder. The rancher turned when he heard his neighbor's name. He said, "Ma'am, I am not Amos Kettle. I am Rowan Kettle. Amos is my brother, 4 townships north. May I ask your business?" Josie Marcher looked at him. She was 29, plain-featured, in a plain gray traveling dress, with a white collar. She had one carpetbag on the boards beside her, and a small, hopeful straight set to her mouth. She said, "Sir, are you telling me you are not the man I have been corresponding with?" Rowan Kettle said, "I am telling you I am not, ma'am. If the man you have been corresponding with is Amos. Amos is my elder brother. He is 39. He is a widower. He runs a large cattle ranch 4 townships north, and he wrote in the Wichita paper for a bride 3 months back. I did not write in any paper for anything. I am here for the mail." Josie Marcher said, "Then you are Mr. Kettle." Rowan Kettle said, "I am a Mr. Kettle. I am not the Mr. Kettle. May I ask your name, ma'am, and then I will drive you to Amos, because it is a 5-hour ride, and it is a courtesy owed." She said, "Josie Marcher, late a schoolteacher of Springfield, Missouri." Rowan said, "Miss Marcher, please forgive the confusion. Come, I will hitch the buckboard. Amos will be surprised." Josie said, "That is an interesting word, Mr. Kettle. Please explain it." Rowan looked at her. He said, "Ma'am, Amos wrote for a bride 3 months back. Amos writes for a bride every 3 months. Amos has not, in 6 years since his wife died, kept a bride who arrived. He drives them off inside a fortnight without meaning to. He is a hard man. He is a good man, in his own way, but he is a hard man. I did not know his last correspondence had produced an actual arrival. I would have written to him myself and warned him if I had. I did not know." Josie Marcher said, "Mr. Kettle, drive me to him. I would like to make my own judgment." Rowan Kettle drove her to him. Amos Kettle received her at his ranch at 7 in the evening. He gave her tea. He gave her supper. He sat opposite her at the plank table and spoke about his herd for 1 hour without pausing to ask her about herself. He told her that his previous 6 brides had all been unsuited to the country and had been sent back at his expense. He told her that a woman of the country must not laugh loudly at supper and must not read fiction after 7 and must not sing while she worked. He told her that a wife's business was the pantry and the hen coop and no other business, and that he did not tolerate opinions at his table. He told her he would marry her Friday morning at the courthouse if she was minded to accept. Josie Marcher heard him out. She drank her tea. She set the cup down. She said, "Mr. Kettle, thank you for the tea and the supper. I would ask you please, before I answer, to permit me to sleep at your foreman's house tonight and to return to Fair Springs in the morning by whatever transport your foreman can arrange. I would like to sit at the boarding hotel and think a full day and give you my answer by Friday morning. Would that be acceptable?" Amos Kettle said, "It would be acceptable. Josiah, my foreman, will drive you at first light." Josie said, "Thank you." She slept in the foreman's house. She rose at 4. Josiah, the foreman, drove her to Fair Springs. She sat at the boarding hotel until 9. Then she walked to the mercantile and asked the clerk in what direction was the ranch of Mr. Rowan Kettle. The clerk pointed. Josie asked what he was known to be. The clerk said, "He is a plain, steady man who feeds a herd of 40 head and a small orchard, and pays cash, and never raises his voice." Josie thanked him. She hired a boy of 10 to drive her the 6 miles south. She arrived at Rowan Kettle's small ranch at midday. He was in his cornfield. He saw the wagon. He walked over. He took his hat off. He said, "Miss Marcher." Josie said, "Mr. Kettle, may I speak plainly on your porch step for 1 minute?" Rowan said, "You may speak plainly for as long as you like." They sat on the porch step. She said, "Mr. Kettle, I have thought hard since 8 o'clock last night. Your brother is not a man I could marry. He is a good man in his way, but he is a hard one. And he is a hard one in the specific way that requires a wife to be smaller than she is. I am not able to be smaller than I am. I have tried it once. It nearly killed me. I am not asking you to marry me. I am asking you what your household is. I am asking you plainly whether, If I stayed a fortnight at the boarding hotel and came here twice a week to sit at your plank table over coffee, you would be interested in learning whether we would suit. That is a very forward thing to ask. I am asking it anyway. Please answer plainly." Rowan Kettle sat on his porch, step in his cornfield clothes, and looked at Josie Marcher a long moment. He said, "Miss Marcher, I am unmarried at 33 because the women in this county are cousins of my brother's ranch, and I would rather be alone than be inspected as an Amos's brother. You are not a cousin of my brother's ranch. You are a schoolteacher from Springfield who has come out here on a stagecoach and has already met the hardest man in the family and has looked at me across a porch step and asked me a plain question. I would very much be interested in the coffee twice a week. I would ask that you take the fortnight at the boarding hotel at my expense, so that no soul in this county calls it anything but a courtship. I would ask that Josiah the foreman ride you back and forth so that Amos hears about it plainly from him. Amos will be embarrassed. I will not be. That is my answer." Josie said, "Thank you, Mr. Kettle." Rowan said, "Rowan, if we are to sit at coffee." Josie said, "Rowan, Josie." 6 weeks later, in a plain, quiet ceremony at the Fair Springs courthouse, the circuit judge married Rowan Kettle and Josie Marcher. Josiah the foreman gave the bride away. Amos Kettle, embarrassed, sent a wagon of good hay as a wedding present and did not attend. He was, by December, courting a widow of Wichita by correspondence, who had, according to Amos's own report, very nearly the correct temper. He drove that widow off inside 3 weeks. He did not, however, drive Josie off. Josie's temper was excellent and was aimed at Rowan's plank table and not at Amos's. Josie took the Fair Springs schoolteacher post in September of that year. She kept it 4 years. She taught, among others, the 3 Kettle nieces of Amos's late wife's family, who had been running feral since '79, and who had, by the end of Josie's second term, learned to read and to write and to speak politely to their uncle, which their uncle, at Christmas of that year, mentioned to Rowan at supper as considerable. 2 years on a warm September afternoon, Josie Kettle sat on the porch step of the small Kettle ranch with Rowan beside her, and their small son Peter asleep against her chest. Peter was 7 months old and looked exactly like Rowan, and was already, in Josie's private judgment, a plainer, better man than his Uncle Amos would ever be. Rowan drank his coffee at his ordinary pace. He kissed his son's forehead. He kissed his wife's temple. He said, "Josie." She said, "Rowan." He said, "Amos was in town yesterday." She said, "Was he?" He said, "He had lunch at the boarding hotel. Josiah says he spoke well of you." Josie said, "That is a first." Rowan said, "I know." She laughed once. The pasture went to gold under the September sun. Somewhere in the cornfield a small tune was drifting up from Josiah teaching the plow horse a new whistle. And Josie Marcher Kettle, who had asked the porter at Fair Springs for Mr. Amos Kettle, and had, in the plain, honest way of a good slow country, been pointed by mistake at his younger brother, put her cheek against her husband's cheek, and understood that the good slow country had, in its good slow way, arranged the correct Mr. Kettle for her by pointing her once at the wrong one first, so that she would know, over one bad plate of Amos's supper and one bad conversation about hen coops, exactly what she was walking away from. And so she had.